Board asked me to kind of facilitate or mediate or whatever, facilitate would be better. The listening session. Really want to do a listening session, not a arguing session or anything else. The board, I was able to talk to the board the Monday after Cinco de Mayo. Good constructive meeting. Wasn't an official board meeting, but the board has said in the next 90 days they want to get Centro back on track, serving the community, take care of all the financials immediately. First priority, and I know the board's working on that right now. Really want to do, and this is, I know Luis met with Cindy, to get this listening session going and get people's ideas and thoughts on the table. And the board is here, except one member who's down in Texas. We're hoping to have him show up. And what I kind of wanted to do is just go around the circle first and just say who we are and why we're here, and then open it up from there. So I'll start with Diane.
Diane Ray Williams. I'm a neighbor, and I live on the other side of the field here. And I'm just here because I've always been a supporter of Centro.
Christy Eschen. I'm currently the program manager for the Rompy Park Youth Group that is held out of Centro Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the afternoons. My program manager, Jessica Fleck, will be attending and just arriving a little bit late. But she's the current program manager out of the Fargo office for Youth Works.
My name is Octavio Gomez. I was a community organizer in the neighborhood and was once the chair of the Centro Cultural. I had a vested interest in seeing it grow to serve the community of Hispanics in the area. So I'm just kind of interested in making sure that that's kind of the direction today's visit here will lead us towards.
I'm Sarah Skios, and I volunteer for the People's Press Project. I'm Cindy's daughter, and I'm here to see that things are carried out accordingly.
I'm Lizzie Cicados, and I'm my mom's daughter, and I'm here to watch how things go down.
Yeah. I'm Duke Gomez-Schempp, and I'm here because I understood this meeting was going to be about some change at Centro. That's what I'm here for.
Yep, I'm Cindy Gomez-Schempp, and I also, I was here on the protest. Actually, I called the protest on May 5th to find out what had happened to Central funding and what was going on with our community center not providing any programming funded by Centro for the community it was founded for. And my understanding of today's meeting was so that we could bring new board members on to the board and make some changes. I will also say that we requested as a community group for the resignation of the board chair, and that we've contacted the AG's office. Well, actually, we sent those notifications to the AG's office, and that the AG's office has responded to our call that happened 2 days after we met at my house, Luis. They're very concerned. They notified us that Centro has not only not filed their 990s for the past 2 years, they also have not been in compliance with their charitable organization license. So they've been on the radar for the AG's office for a while now. And they said that they wanted to know, what does the community want to do next? And they will be contacting us after this meeting to find out whether or not they need to come in and clean house and start fresh, or if we're able to work together to bring about the changes that Centro needs.
I'm Marcela Alvarez Clavijo. I'm a student at MSUM Social Work and also a member of the community. And I think Cindy is just about set it off.
I'm Oscar Zurita. I'm a local DJ and I'm here to show support.
I'm Ricardo Arena from Laredo, Texas, and I'm also here to show support for Centro Cultural.
I'm Beatriz Castro, and I am currently the president of the student organization for Latinos at MSUM, and I have been part of Centro since I came into the community in 2009.
I'm Nayeli Urbano, and I'm currently on the board as treasurer, and I am here to listen.
And
Arellano. I'm a volunteer board member of Centro, and I'm here to see what good can come out of this session and see how can we move forward.
Good. I'm gonna, that's it? Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I'm Alex Estrada, son of Christine Lacosia. I'm a volunteer at Centro and I'm here to listen.
Oh, Dr. name's Daniel Till. I'm just coming into the community here. I'm from Pioneer Indian Reservation. And I'm here to listen to this. Oh, yes.
Good. I'm gonna pass around, I throw a pen on here too. Get name and email, and open it up. I guess, where do you want to start?
I guess the first place I would like to start is where we discussed starting, which is to come up with a transition plan for this place. And part of that, as we discussed in the meeting on Friday, May 10th, was to accept new board applicants and vote them in today so that we have a functioning board.
Well, today, under the bylaws, you'd have to have a 5-day written notice in order to have a board meeting. So there'd be no way to have a board meeting in order to vote people in.
Well, the board can choose to have a board meeting.
They can.
And that was what was offered by Luis at the meeting that we had. And it was confirmed by Nadelia and Christine that they accepted that we were going to have this meeting today. For that purpose, because that was the only reason why we came today.
That's why we agreed to come today.
Yeah, in fact, we agreed that that was the purpose of today's meeting. When we
Not a
saw it,
listening session.
when we saw it announced as a listening session, we're like, well, maybe they can call it whatever they want, but that was what we were told.
I'm here to help facilitate a listening session. I have no idea that the board meeting is going to take place.
That's what we were told it was happening today. If that isn't what is happening today, then we've wasted a lot of people's time because we are not going to actually do any of the things that we told the AG's office we were going to be doing today.
We talked to an agreement. I didn't say like, this is what we're doing. This is like what we planned to do. And what I have in mind is to gather people who are willing to step up. And that was an agreement, to find people to...
You specifically said we were going to have all the board members here so that they could vote new board members in on that same day. Do you remember saying that?
I'm willing to do that. I don't know if the rest of the board
well, if they're unwilling to, they can certainly say that. It was my understanding that's what we were going to do today, and we thought your plan was good because when we were talking about just filling out the paperwork and moving forward with our plan, we figured that the AG's office would come in and they would make a determination as to who should remain on the board and who should be removed, and that they would do whatever they found necessary. Your plan seemed very good because I thought we could bring the community together and apply together and say, okay, we want to be on the board. This is the things that we're asking for. We're asking for the person that's been on the board for the last 3.5 years as board chair, who doesn't have an understanding of what's happened or hasn't been able to explain to us what's happened, for her to step down. To help us transition into a working organization that is meeting the function of what this place was founded and created for, to improve the lives of Hispanic people and to preserve our culture. And that's what we were told that day. So we all heard the wrong thing, and I did record the meeting so you could listen to it yourself. That's exactly what we talked about. That was the only thing that we agreed to do today.
Do you have like any words about
Okay.
applications?
I think that we should, okay, first of all, I'm not gonna speak if you're gonna have recording devices.
It doesn't matter, we can still
It's
record.
a public meeting.
Well, here, let me try and reel this back. I wasn't under the understanding that this is a board meeting. I think you have 2 board members that weren't under the understanding this is a board meeting. And I'll just read the bylaws. It says special meetings of the board may be called anytime by the chair or by her absence, the vice president, which this organization currently doesn't have, upon receipt of a request signed by 3 or more directors of the corporation. Purpose of all such meetings shall be communicated electronically or in mail at least 5 calendar days prior to the date set for the meeting. In lieu of such notices of meeting, an instrument in writing signed by all members waive the necessity of sending the notice. And when it talks about filling vacancies, you need a majority, which would be 2 out of the 3. And if that was the purpose identified, I think you have 2 board members who didn't know that. And
The person that offered this solution, Luis, was asked if he would be the one to notify the other 2 board members, and I got a call Monday saying, I told them about this, and they said it was a great idea. So we went ahead and started notifying people to come to the meeting based on that information. And we had a discussion via email back and forth saying, we need to get this notification out as soon as possible, because to be respectful to the community, as you can see, there's not a lot of people here. When you notify people 3 days before a meeting, it's hard for them to change their plan. There's people's got their whole summer planned, let alone this weekend. So it makes it difficult for people to come when they have such little notification. And the purpose of today's meeting that we invited people here for was what Luis told us to invite people here for, not a listening session. So if we were all misinformed, all the rest of the people, right now you're saying that just these 2 board people were misinformed about the purpose of this meeting. Well, all the rest of the people that are here were misinformed about the purpose of this meeting if we misunderstood what he said. And I don't think that we did. And that's exactly what I told the AG's office we were going to be coming to do. They said, what do you want us to do? I said, well, I don't even know what's going to happen. After we meet with the board, if there's a new board in place and LaCourcie is not there anymore, then we should be able to work with you very closely to get everything back into compliance, and we'll take your lead as to what you think the new board should do. And we will notify you after the meeting as to what happened. But the first thing that she said to me is, do we need to go in and remove all the board members? And I said, I don't know, because I only know that LaCourcie's been there for, 3.5 years. The other 2 board members are just brand new. I think we said he'd been here for 2 weeks, and I think Nayeli says she's been here for a month. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's what we were told. I don't think either one of them I don't know how much they know about what the organization has been going through, but it didn't seem like they knew very much about it at the time we came to the protest.
And I can't speak to that. I was asked, I came in from the Lakes to help facilitate a listening session. In my discussions with 2 of the board members on Thursday night, I've been here 3 times the last 2 weeks. Conversation we had on Thursday night, there was no signal from the majority of the board that there would be a board meeting tonight.
I think that's a failing on the board's part to get that done then, because we were told that, we were asked to do that, and we agreed to do that as a group. And at the meeting was Octavio, Juan Garcia, one of the protesters, Marcela, myself, Marta Castañon, Abner Arauza, who else? Remember? Trying to think. Juan, yeah, I said Juan.
Well, I think that it's already been expressed what our purpose is here and what we thought we were coming for. And you've expressed, as you're obviously speaking for the board. So if she has no intention of speaking, then what is the purpose?
Exactly.
I mean, if she's not going to speak and she's the chair, then what's the point of us being here?
I understood from the Facebook posting that it was a session to allow the community to. This is why
that's
But
not
we've
what
already
we're told.
established that. I mean, we're now just going in circles. I mean, you've said it a couple of times, she said it a couple of times. We can spend the rest of the night repeating each other, but we need to move forward. So is she gonna speak, or is she gonna not speak, or are you gonna speak for her?
I was asked by the board to help facilitate.
Why are you asked to facilitate a meeting for the Latino community when the representative
When we have the
currently
board
for the
here.
board member is here? Why do you have to facilitate it?
Because I think the board, and this is my own opinion, felt that this would end up being back and forth rather than a listening session, and they were interested in your
It was
input.
it was Luis that offered it. We didn't have any intention of coming here today at all for any reason.
And
We were just gonna let the AG
I wouldn't have had any
handle it.
intention in chairing a board meeting because I'm not on the board.
So-
As the representative of the community, as the board representative of this community, I was asked to come in and mediate or to facilitate a listening session so that the majority of the board, and under the bylaws, who has the complete power and authority to carry out the stated purpose of the corporation, is able to make some decisions over the next 90 days.
So if this is a listening session, then when she first spoke, she made it very clear what our intent was.
Yes.
That we're requesting that she step down. She's been here for over 3 years, the max is 3 years. The community has requested, there's been a petition, people have signed in the community saying, we want you off the board. So
Oh,
now
I
what?
absolutely agree. And what I have written down here is information on funding. I know the board's working on that. Bringing new members on and traditional process in Minnesota, nonprofit laws, and an application is given. People are interviewed. They agree to serve the mission and the vision of the organization. And then it's elected by the majority of the board. That is under the nonprofit laws of Minnesota. That's the way it goes forward. But in order to have board members rightfully and legally appointed to a board, you have to give 5 days written notice that a board meeting is going to take place. And depending on how the organization is set up, you have to open up to not just who shows up and says, I want to be on the board. It has to be opened up. And this under subsection 5, section 2, article 5, section 2, directors of this corporation shall share the mission and goals of the corporation, period. The corporation is committed to a policy of fair representation on the board, which shall not discriminate on the basis of race, national origin, physical handicap, sex, color, religion, sexual orientation, or age. And if the board is opening up for new members, they need to make that public somehow, that they're accepting applications.
But see, part of the problem has been that there's been a lot of people in the community that have applied to the board that have been ignored. Their board application was either lost, according to Le Corsier, or, whatever happened to those board applicants. So we're not confident in the process that the current board chair has taken in making sure that board members are actually getting accepted. Evie, come and sit in the circle.
And as
Vente
I
a sentar
said,
acá si quieres.
But Mark, you also read those bylaws there in lieu of, which means that if the board decided at this moment in time and got the signatures of the other board members, you could do that right now.
Yeah, you
Well,
can.
do you want to try, are you going to get a majority of the board?
Well, we
One.
didn't have the
They can
majority of the
choose
board
not
here.
to.
They just indicated that there was 4 and there's 1 in Texas. That's 3 out of 4, so we have that.
Do you assume you will get the majority? Well, one, you'll have to get all the signatures.
Well, right now, we have 1 board member that's willing to speak to the group, 1 board member that's sitting and allowing you to speak for them in a facilitating type of a scenario where it has completely taken the back seat. There is no facilitating because
Okay,
she's simply
listen,
not.
Or if anyone here was at the original protest, I was shut down, okay? I was shut down and was also personally attacked. This has nothing to do with personal things, and I would appreciate if you didn't record me any longer. I'm requesting that to be not recorded.
Sorry, it's a public meeting. You don't
Alright,
have to
then
speak. You
okay.
have to be held accountable because you haven't been.
Cindy, you did not let me speak. You interrupted me, you were rude, and I don't appreciate it. And it's really hard, because I came here under the understanding that we're having a listening session, so we could listen, and we have board applications over there for people to apply. Now, I am frustrated because you've made personal attacks, and that is not, it's not necessary, because I'm willing to work with people, and in fact, I am willing to share the history and what's been going on since 2011, since things started to go downhill. But if people really in this community really want to know, then they need to listen. And that's not what was happening.
Right,
No, don't write me, that's not what was happening. Are you going to admit that or not?
Now
No,
you're being rude.
you're being very rude.
Yeah, well,
very
I'm
rude.
You
so
started
All right,
out
see,
being very rude.
This is exactly.
So we don't need you to tell her
This is
her
not-
whether or
That
not
was
she's being.
completely rude.
That was very rude.
Yeah, it
She's
is
being
rude.
very,
I'm really
very rude.
frustrated.
But this is here's the thing. When you're the
That's
board
why I asked
chair,
Mark to be here.
that's fine.
Because you
But we don't
agitated me, and that
need
was
we
your
don't need
point.
somebody from
That
the
was
white
the goal.
community to mediate a conversation about the future of our
The
Latino
board
Center.
has the right to ask anyone to mediate. It's in the bylaws.
That's right, but you didn't announce it. You didn't announce it on the listening session thing that you weren't going to talk, that you were gonna have us,
It's a listening session.
and that you were gonna start
We
off
were
by
going to
being
listen.
attacking and
As
rude
we
to
started
us.
here, we said that we were going to listen.
And you know what? I made that tape public so that people could see the hour and 42 minutes of everything that was done and said. And the majority of the people that have seen it and looked at it, including the forum reporter that I talked to today, said that you were being rude. Said that you seemed very defensive. If my
wonder
asking
why.
questions is rude to you, then you're going to have a lot of rudeness in your life. And it's going to not just come from this community, it's going to come from the Attorney General's office as well. And that's something that I'm not going to back off from, because what has happened with the funding and with the programming of this organization is not acceptable,
What
period.
happened to it, Cindy?
There has been no programming funded by Centro. There has been no accounting of what happened to the Bremer grant, which, by the way, we found out was rescinded. You must know that.
I mean, you did go to the meeting in Minneapolis. You were informed of what needed to be done
I went to the
So-
meeting in Minneapolis.
so that you guys wouldn't lose the funding.
I went to the
Everything
meeting
was
in Minneapolis.
instructed to you,
Wait,
and
Marcella,
then
you
you
have
guys,
information, I want to be clear about this.
Bremer said
I went to Minneapolis.
you.
No, please clarify, because I don't want these non-truths to be going around. It's misleading people. I went to Minneapolis.
Yes.
Regardless,
I went to
regardless
Minneapolis
of
for
whether or
Bremer
not
said-
you did or not
No,
personally.
Marcella, I never went to, this is not my job. You don't understand. You need to be clear about what an executive director does and what the
Bremer
board
said they
does.
met with 2 board members. That's what Bremer
In
said to us.
Minneapolis?
They didn't tell me where they met. When I
Okay, so
talked
now
to,
we're just telling people that I'm going to Minneapolis.
she has different information than I have. I spoke to Howard Barlow, and Howard told me that the fund was rescinded, that he spoke directly to the program officer on Monday and Tuesday, right after the Cinco de Mayo protest. And I told Mark about that. I said, I talked to Howard Barlow, and he said he's going to be addressing these concerns. Siéntate en el grupo, Miguel, para que nos podamos ver las caras. So what happened was that we were told that the program officer met with 2 women from the board in the fall of last year and informed them of non-compliance with the grant, and that the funds, if they did not become compliant, would be rescinded, and that nothing was done, and $90,000+ went down the toilet. That was funded to Centro. That was either benign neglect at best or mismanagement at worst by the board
Okay, I'll
and
show
its
you
chair,
my
because
report.
you should be responsible for the information about what's going on with the funding of this organization as the board chair.
Okay, as my understanding is, the executive director handles the grant and manages the grant. The executive director wrote the grant, and it's extensive, and it's a large and very ambitious grant. And without someone here to manage that grant, yes, it is going to be rescinded. The objectives and the goals that are supposed to be met were large. And a board that left, there were several people on the board, there were 7 members, and we're left with 2 or 3, and then we took on another board member. And recently had 1 leave and 1 join. But the role of the board, and what we've been continuing to do, is to continue with programming as much as possible.
There has been no
put out-
programming for the Latino
Cindy,
community.
Are you gonna continue?
Well,
You've already made that point, but no one wants to listen. Do you want to know what happened?
We
or
kind of
not?
do want to listen to that.
Okay, you
I
want to
remember
listen, you
watching
need
the
to
video, I
listen.
watched for an hour and 42 minutes to hear you answer one question. What kind of programming did you fund through Centro? I heard nothing in an hour and 42 minutes.
I am not the executive director. I am the
I was
board
the
chair.
board, I was the
Right.
board chair,
Okay.
and I was aware of these things. It was not completely oblivious to me what was going on in the board. I know how to run other boards, and it's never outside of the knowledge of the board chair to have that kind of information. In fact, you are going to the budget committee and making sure that you have the funding to be able to do these things. You can't just be like, let's do it, or somebody came in and did it, and now we have to
And you
pay
clearly knew
for
that
it.
the fund was rescinded the day we were here asking you about it. You could have at least been straight with us and said,
I did
that
not
fund
say
has
about
been
that.
rescinded. We don't have access to it anymore because we failed to meet the program guides of the grant, or this is what we were told, the reason why we don't have access to that money and we won't. You
How
could
is-
have told us.
How is it that you're now saying that you don't know anything, you don't know this, you don't know that, when you clearly stated that you've been to every single meeting, every single board meeting?
Okay, you need to listen and understand.
Oh, I'm listening to you. I just
Okay,
feel that you're
so
not
all
giving
this
us the
information,
answers.
how is all this information supposed to be made available when we don't have an executive director that does these reports, that handles this? Do you understand the role of the board?
But you are
Do
the
you
board.
understand the role of the board?
Not in full detail, but
I'm
obviously
sure.
neither
Well,
do
here,
you.
let's bring it,
Talking
let me
Obviously,
bring it
neither
back.
do you.
I can answer that question under the bylaws. The board of directors shall appoint a chief executive officer to be responsible for the day-to-day management of the organization and for the implementation of the directives of the board. The CEO should be ex officio member of the board and standing committees and task forces. The president is the delegated representative of the board in that capacity and shall be responsible to the board. Shall be responsible for all administrative functions of the corporation, not limited to recruiting, selecting, determining remuneration, employing, promoting, and dismissing staff members, initiating and directing the development of policies for board review, attend all board meetings, provide the board with adequate information in sufficient time to assist in reaching sound decisions, assure the supervision of all staff of the corporation, assure that all members of the corporation receive an annual written evaluation of their performance, direct the preparation of the annual budget and submit it to the board for review, approve expenditures of limits in board-approved budget, represent the organization as its CEO in all dealings with other organizations, individuals, and the general public, promote good public relations in the community, work with the board to prepare long and short-range plans for the organization, and report regularly to the board about progress towards organizational objectives, financial status of the organization, and other issues of concern to the board. What's missing in this bylaws, and I went through it on Thursday night after reading through them, there's no, in these bylaws, there is nothing that states what happens when you lose an executive director.
Really?
Isn't there something in there? Because I remember when I was the chair of this organization, I recall that there was something very clear that indicated that the chair could then be the acting director.
Yep.
And that's what took place when
Nothing
Christina
else.
Rositas was here. She stepped down, became the acting director, and I became the chair of the organization in accordance to the bylaws.
So Christine was the acting director during that period of time.
And I'm reading through the bylaws, and we'll get you copies of the bylaws, and I've gotten your email. I don't see anything in there for the absence of.
If that's not in there anymore, then it
Then
was
that it
changed.
needs- Well, that, what I've got is the bylaws that were approved.
And the bylaws,
in
would
06,
have
and you were
changes.
chair in 06, I think. Huh?
There would be
So-
approval changes,
well,
right?
No, there was a
chair in
couple little typo things. And I can go through it, but I mean, what Christine is saying, as a former executive director myself, I know we've got at least 3 others in the room. That is the responsibility of the executive director. And if the executive director, the former executive director, didn't do that, and I don't want to cast aspersions on any executive director, from what I understand from the organization, 3 executive directors in 18 months, someone didn't do their work and report it. But, you know, we will, without an executive director, the board has to pass something into its bylaws saying who will take over. We had talked about a working board. In the bylaws, employees can't serve on the board. So it's gonna have to be resolved through the board of directors of exactly who takes responsibility for reporting. Did the board drop the ball? I can't speak to that.
Well, I can speak to the fact that we had 7 board members and we lost a lot of them and we're left with a few. And we took on some new board members, but they're new. So this is what happened. We immediately looked for, we started the transition process. We put up for an executive director. We interviewed, we took the best applicant we got. That person did not stick with us. She said she had grant writing experience. We had her for a few months. She took salary and she left. We do not know what happened to her. She said she had a family emergency. We never heard from her again, never got in contact. She never contacted us again. We were left high and dry. Okay, so we just start that process over again. And you have to understand that the previous executive director put in over 32 hours a week to make the programs and things that he was doing run. You know, and I meet with him frequently and we'd find out what was going on, set the agenda, and we'd operate as a board. We went through the strategic planning process in 2010. So it was working and things were going on. So this is what happened after Annalisa left. Then we had to fill the gap again. And of course, it's taking our time as a board to also train and teach, you know, just the basic stuff. I mean, you're executive director qualified or whatever, but, you know, we had to fill in, this is how Centro operates. This is like, this is how we pay our bills. This is our systems in place. We did that work. Next came, we had an intern available to help us out with the administrative assistant parts. That's not originally what we wanted an intern for, because it was more for, we've got it all listed out, what we needed them for, what, plans and intentions were. That person graduated, that, the internship was only set till May. And as board members, we're picking up the slack and we're the ones, opening the mail, meeting the accountant, putting the bill requests in, or the check requests to pay for the lights, for the electricity, for the furnace when it broke down this winter, for, fixing the door when somebody broke in, fixing a window so kids couldn't break in, and then, whatever was needed around here. And we are board members. We're not the executive director, so of course we're trying to find an executive director. Then we got Ernesto in here. Timeline-wise, I don't remember exactly when Ernesto came in, but he was working here with Cisco, the intern. Neto left us to go to grad school in August. Okay, so we've been without a program person or a director. So we've had people in here working. It's not like we've stopped. It came to the point where we understood financially that it was too taxing to try to find an executive director that was qualified, that was going to stick around and manage the grant. We knew and understood managing the grant was important. And that was our goal, is to find that executive director to manage, to keep things going, and to get back to the capacity that it was, and continue going up. Because it wasn't where we wanted to be, of course. When Papa left, we were doing that work. But without him, and without an executive director, we're a skeleton crew working, trying to keep things going. Yeah, was it easy? No, it wasn't. Have I talked to people about coming in and do maintenance, or basically people could find and communicate with? Did we lose a communication between Neto and things like that? I'm sure we did, because I am part-time volunteer board person. I didn't sign up to do 32 hours a week. I mean, that was not my understanding when I became a board member. And I understand I'm responsible, so I have not left. While we lost many board members, I stayed here.
Can I just say
Please,
something?
No, I don't want to right now, because
You're repeating a lot of stuff over and over again about how you're just a volunteer, and we were actually
I'm not
heard.
paid. I want
I
that to be
understand
understood.
that.
I'm not
We
paid. I
heard
don't
that.
get anything from this than responsibility. But I signed up as chair, and we're still trying to make this work.
This sounds more like something you should be saying to the AG when you talk to her,
And
because
I-
to me it sounds like an excuse.
And I believe that the Attorney General will be contacted, and,
And
it'll
just
be
let me
worked out.
just let me say, like, from everything I've heard, my husband and I have been running a nonprofit successfully for 2.5 years with a skeleton crew of people.
Congratulations.
And
Not
it,
easy.
to me, no, it's not, but it can be done.
I'm sure it
And
can.
part of what I find unconscionable is that all of this building has been falling apart. Mexicans, we can fix stuff. We fix stuff. We have somebody that we know that will come and fix the toilet, and then we'll go and help them roof their house. That's how we do. We can fix stuff. I didn't see any notifications on Centro's Facebook page, on Centro's website. We need volunteers. We need board members. We need someone to
Well,
volunteer grant write.
That's not true, because I signed up to volunteer to do the yard last week.
Last week, right,
Yes.
that's
And
like
so when the
after,
request- when the
but Mark,
request
that was
came by-
after we had said we were gonna protest.
That's fine.
Before the protest, before
But-
there was any call
and
for
then let me
accountability,
just speak
there
to
was
Octavio's
nothing.
point. Octavio, there was a section in here that says the board shall recruit and employ a chief executive officer of the corporation, establish compensation and fix her duties. The board shall supervise the CEO and cause an annual performance assessment to occur. Hiring and termination of the CEO shall require a 2/3 ballot. That's about it for the officer. Now, there was a point where, under board of directors, when a director dies, resigns, or removes, the board may elect a director to serve the duration of the unexpired term. But in here, director means a director on the board, and executive is the executive director. So when they say director, it doesn't mean executive director, it means director of the board. There's nothing in the bylaws that I've been able to review.
Are you sure about that?
That's, yeah.
Is
this
that your understanding, like, as a lawyer, or what are you drawing
I'm
that
reading
knowledge
Article
from?
5, Board of Directors, as a former executive
But,
director.
but, but a
of
board, the board director is called the board chair in the bylaws, not the director.
The number of members of the Board of Directors, the Board of Directors shall hereafter be referred to as the board. Any reference to the board shall be listed synonymous with the board of directors. The directors of this corporation shall share in the mission and goals of this corporation. And then when you get to chief executive officer, it is referred to as the CEO or chief executive officer.
Well, from what I was saying, there's been a lot of I don't knows, we were too busy, passing of the buck. Meanwhile, there has been people like Marcela and a student that she worked with that wrote grants for Centro. Now that I'm kind of tying ends together after talking to the AG, it dawns on me that they probably didn't have a proper license at the time, and that's why they didn't give a tax ID number, but nobody said to her and the student, look, we haven't been compliant. We're not doing the stuff we have to do to have our paperwork in line, so we can't actually legally request donations in the state of Minnesota. Nobody said anything on the board, especially not from the board chair, to the community that they're responsible to report some information to, any information to. There was no request for volunteers, there was no request for board members, there was no notification that they needed to look for staff people that were volunteers to take the place of the non-paid staff they couldn't afford. You know, that's a serious problem, and that's why we came here today, not to a listening session, but to get new board members inducted and to ask for the resignation that we've been asking for over a week.
And I think that's been heard and received, but, you know, under the bylaws, and me and you had a nice long conversation a week ago, and as I told you, this isn't a membership organization. Article 4, membership. Members of this corporation shall consist only and solely of the current board of directors.
I understand that.
All power lies in these 3 individuals. And if they ask me to work with Lori Swanson, I'll work with Lori. I know.
Why are you working with any of this? You kept telling me on the phone, you don't have anything to do with it. You don't have anything to do with it. And now you're speaking. I have a problem with that, Mark, because you're speaking for my community.
No,
Yes, you are. You've talked more here than any other brown person in the room. Don't you think that's weird, being that this is a meeting about the future of the only Latino organization?
and I would
Those are not white people on the wall. Those are not Europeans. Those are Aztecs.
And I mentioned it before in the bylaws that there is no discrimination. This
Right.
organization is.
I'm not discriminating against
Let
you,
me
Mark.
say,
I'm
this
asking why you're
corporation
speaking for them and
is
why you're
committed
speaking
because
for
the board is
us.
asking, the members who hold the power of this organization have asked.
Well, I
us.
didn't come here to speak to you. I came here to speak to the board.
Why am I here?
So if they have the power to set a board meeting and to accept applications and then to accept them, if they have that power, and in the past 2 years, they've gotten requests from people from this community saying, I want to apply, can I have an application? Here's my application, call back, when am I going to hear, have you made a decision? And nothing's happened. So for 2 years, that process has not occurred. And now we requested a board meeting, we got a listening session. If they have the power to set this board meeting and recruit and actually assign board members, when is that going to happen? If their track record has shown, their actions, not the color of their skin, not what they do for a living, their own actions have shown that they do not keep their word and that they have not elected anybody for the board meeting. So if she knows that the community is asking for her to resign and she's yet to set up this board meeting, do you honestly think that she's going to set the meeting up, that she's going to set the actual board meeting, that she's actually going to choose members from the community here that want to be on the board, knowing that we're going to request that she resign?
I can't speak.
Her actions speak for her.
Yeah.
Marcela, okay, we actually agreed as a board that we got the board applications, we wanted to have a listening session, we are recruiting board members. One thing that we were very positive about, because we didn't know it was going to turn out like this at all, when we saw the protest was happening, we're like, great, people are excited because we need people. This is a perfect way to get the people who want to be a part of Centro, identifying. Because I am not joking, it has not been easy. And yes, did I do a good job? No. As 2 or 3 people on a board, doing the job of an executive director? No. Yes, I apologize for everything that has happened in the last 2 years. But we're here now, and we're making a commitment to meet and to have this session We want people to sign up as board.
I can
We will-
guarantee you that nobody in this room is going to sign up if you're the board chair. I
My
won't.
term
I know
was
that
in.
there's,
My term is almost up, and I will not be on the board, but I don't find it responsible to leave two other board members that are new without continuing to do what I know that I can do as far as transitioning the current information that we have to, I just feel it would be irresponsible.
you can do
to
that as a
find-
liaison. You
What's
can
that?
do that as a liaison to the organization.
I am not interested in staying on very much longer. The point is, we need people to sign up as board members.
That's what we came to do
Okay,
today.
but I can't just throw the keys at you and knock on the door. We need to have
We didn't
a
ask for
process.
that, no.
Yes, you called me on the
Well,
phone
the
and asked me
petition-
that.
No, we asked
You
you,
called me on the
resign.
phone and asked me
resign.
that.
It's what you asked me is, have her resign and give me the keys. On the petition that you have on moveon.org, which I believe is in violation of the terms of service of that petition site, is we want the keys. And you've stated that at least twice, is we want her to resign and give us the keys.
Mhm.
This board cannot legally hand this organization over to anyone outside of dissolution. Now,
Right,
when we
that's why
talked-
when
we
we
talked the
talked
other
to
day,
Greasy,
and
he
when
brought
we
up
talked the
that.
other day, Cindy, we said they're probably 90 days from dissolution.
That's what you said.
And I think the board has dedicated themselves, when I was at that meeting, that in the next 90 days, whoever takes over as board chair, and whoever comes onto this board will have a clean, well-run, legal organization that can serve the community and its mission. And that's, I was very excited about that. I've worked with nonprofits in a lot more trouble than this. And this organization can, in the next 90 days, I believe, get itself right with the Attorney General, can get a hold of Bremer and apologize for the failures of this organization, and can start moving forward. I hope that that can happen. You asked me why I was here. Number 9 on the strategic plan that the board did adopt in the new mission was support the development of a Rumpke Park Community Association. I represent the Rumpke Park neighborhood. That's why I was asked by the former executive director, Popo, when he wrote this plan, to help him with this, the establishment of a Rumpke Park Neighborhood Association. That's why I'm involved. And we talked on the phone. Centro Cultural is there to provide leadership opportunities for Latinos and the Fargo-Moorhead community. Great. My interest is to support the development of the Rumpke Park Community Association, which was part of the Bremer Grant. And it
Okay,
is
but
an
the Bremer
obligation
Grant's
of the
all I got.
organization. And as the elected city representative of Rumpke Park, I hope I would be involved in it.
Oh, yeah, I think you
And
should
so-
be, but
and the
what
board-
my concern is that these types of projects
Yes.
have been the only thing that has been the focus of Centro, and it should have been focused on the Latino community it was founded for.
And I could.
And
I could
you're
address that.
very concerned about making sure that this neighborhood association and this youth works and this other stuff happens, but you're not as concerned about making sure that the programming
Here's what I understand.
for the center
Here's what I
happens.
understand the mission of Centro Cultural is, to reach out, connect, and empower Latinos and the Fargo-Moorhead community to bring social change.
That again
And
was
that's-
done without the
It's
consent of the
changed. If you
community.
look at that poster up there,
Yeah.
that's what the mission statement.
This
was
is what I
closely
have,
associated.
and talking to the board chair.
And
this is
talking
what
to the AG, they said that if that change was done, she said they would have had to notify, because you cannot change the mission of a nonprofit without notifying the charitable organizations department of
This
the
is what
AG's
I'm working on,
office.
this is what the Bremer Grant is.
Well,
And
I'm
there
telling
There
you,
was 9 points to that. Bring the stories and perspectives of the Latino community to the forefront. Support Latinos as they traverse through their education. Provide our community with opportunities for education and experience to progress the community's development. Connect community leaders with greater leadership opportunities. Support leaders that are in action. Develop a community network between Latinos and our community. Develop and support other Latino organizations in the community. Develop Latino leaders to bring issues to the table. And support the development of a Rumpke Park Community Association. To Octavio's point, earlier in the grant, it says, from these meetings came the determination to create a formal organization called the Hispanic Community Center Project. The Hispanic Community Center that the community needed, and through its efforts, the Latino community in Fargo-Moorhead celebrated Hispanic traditions and holidays, access resources and opportunities. Then it says, Centro Cultural needs to become more than a Hispanic Community Center to address the current condition of our community. What I understand, the board, and I have it recorded in their minutes, changed the mission of the organization. That's what I'm working with. I'm working with what the Bremer Grant
right,
what the
We
precedent.
understand
How
that.
can a board of, at the time, it was just 2 people, 2 women. How can a board of 2 people change the mission of an organization for a Latino community without so much as including the community?
And I
Because it
mentioned
didn't
that,
happen with 2 women, it happened with a full board.
and I discussed this on Thursday, that one of the failings of the board for the last 2 years, when Papa went through the strategic planning, was not communicating it clearly to their constituents.
At all.
Well, and that,
Services everywhere. We can't find services anywhere. We can't find support everywhere. And that's why Hector Martinez and the Mexican farm workers that started this place did it, so that we would all have a place to come and be supportive of each other. And for that mission to change without our knowledge and our consent, and for them to then say, well, hey guys, we're going to turn this into more of a community center because the focus is now going to be different. Even though we've lost the grant and the funders have rescinded this grant, we're still going to work toward the vision of a grant that no longer has funding for a mission that nobody in the community supports. That doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for the people that I asked to come here today.
and all I can do, Cindy, is look at it objectively. From the documentation I have, the board changed the mission of the organization.
No, well, to me, that's a very,
On what basis was that changed?
I saw a big
Christine,
folder
that
of-
was-
That's for her, not for you.
I'm asking her.
Repeat the question, please.
On what basis was the mission changed?
The board went through a strategic plan process.
It is the strategy here, and I was reading part of that at Bramer Grant. Centro Cultural is a leader to advocate, convene, and be resource when the community needs it. The current condition of our community has many needs. Lacks the ability to speak on its own behalf on the issues of education, government, accountability, housing, business, and media. Centro Cultural needs to become more than a Hispanic community center to address the current conditions of our community. So based on this.
that's exactly what he read. We asked, why was it changed without notifying the community and without our consent? Because it was created for us. This building is for us. And then the mission is changed, and then there's no programming for
I'm
us.
not understanding what need that's meeting. For this little center, what need does that really meet in the whole Fargo-Moorhead community? I'm trying to understand. And let me state who I am. My name is Leanne Guerrero. I'm co-owner of Skill Cuts Barbershop in Fargo. And as for people who know what that is, we're very multicultural. We serve mainly a large base of Somali, Mexican, Hispanic, a lot of just ethnic hair. And that is a safe place for us. If a European white or French, somebody walks in there, a lot of the time they walk right out. Now, my kids are very dark, Hispanic, Mexican kids. They don't look nothing like me or nothing like my husband. And a lot of the times we get customers because we specialize in design, afros, things like that. And let me tell you how many times a white person will walk in and go, and walk right back out. I don't care. If you want to do that, that's your business. 3 of our barbers are black. 2 are Haitian, 1 is African American, and then my husband is white. And a lot of the times I find that very offensive. But you know what? I learned to live with it in this area. We've made a success out of that business over 5 years, and we've expanded, and we've done very well. But do you know how many safe places there are for my children? Not many. Not many. You know how many safe places there are for white children? A lot. So there's this tiny spot. I'd like to know, what is the mission when there are so many safe places for white children to go? How does that mission serve a need in this little space? Explain that.
For us. Why are our
How does
children
that-
being left out?
How does that serve a need in an area in the Red River Valley like this? When you've got kids doing things like wearing KKK masks at frickin' hockey games.
Yeah.
And making that okay. White kids got many safe places to go to.
What, and I mean, this is exactly, I mean, what could Central provide?
Central could give my children a safe place to learn about their culture, their heritage, that makes it safe for them, that is based on who they are, where they can learn about themselves, that is a safe place specifically for them.
And when
Because
they're
tell me
here,
how many places are specifically for them.
and when they're
That's what
here,
this was made for.
and when they're here, for them to be able to look up to people that represent them.
Who
Not white
who
people,
look like them.
not other people, people that look like them. So
Yep.
that when they look up to someone and when they say, I want to be like that person, and they're being mentored by somebody who looks like them.
Yep.
Program that's run by white people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing racist about that. But when you grow up and you go into the world and you send your children into the world and say, be proud of who you are, be proud of what you come from, be proud of the fact that your last name is Aguirre, and you go to school and no one can say your name, and you're made to conform because everybody calls you Aguirre. Do you know no one can say my kids' names? They go to Robert Aspen, they've gone there for years, but no one can say their name. My kids can go to somewhere where they can say, hey, Justice Aguirre, what's up? Do you know how many places somebody can say their name? Hardly nowhere. But you know, everybody right here could say their name.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many people in their school can say their name? Nobody. Like 2 people that they run into can say their name. We were raised there. But at the same time, I want to give him a safe place.
And why does our place have to be turned into a community center that serves the whole greater community?
When
Our community
has a
is being
whole lot of
ignored.
places.
And not just that, she's right about that. They do have a lot of other places. There is no other place that serves us. But we are not being served at all. It seems to me that the mission for the people on the board at that time and continuing since that time was to squeeze us out, to make sure we didn't have any services, that we didn't have any programming, because that's exactly what has happened since then. And that this be turned into a different sort of center with the dirty Mexicans out of there. Get the Latinos out. Let's bring in some other children from the community to make this a community center that we can fund, that looks nice for the city council members. That's not what we want. And what I came here to do today was what he told me. And when I talked to the forum reporter today, I said, this is what we were told. When I talked to the AG's office, I said, this is what we were told. If we're just being yanked around, we're being made to waste our time, we'll just go back to the AG and let the AG clean it up. Because it's a problem that you're not going to get rid of today. If the people in this community know that the community members that are serving in their Latino center don't have their backs, are the same people that ran it into the ground, that mismanaged the funds and the grants, that didn't know what kind of people they were hiring, that didn't accept the applications, that didn't let the volunteers come in and do programming. Those same people are going to be running the organization still, or going to still be working on the organization. Nobody's going to come here. In fact, the majority of the people that are here today that weren't the invitees of the board members are invitees of mine. And they're not even half of the people that wanted to come. But the people of this community, they do stand together in one thing. This is our Centro. Whose center is this?
Our Centro.
This is our Centro. You cannot take it away from us. And if these board members are not on board with that, then we can go. You don't have to waste any more of our time, and we don't have to waste any more of your time.
Okay, I will answer your question. When we did the strategic plan, we wanted to, for funding especially, we wanted to broaden it, and part of our work was not, I'll read what we had as current situation. Individuals lack an organization that supports the ability to speak on their own behalf on issues of education, image, reputation, government accountability, partnerships, housing, community events, community resources, business, and media. Okay. Our mission, we then changed from this to be more specific, that Centro Cultural reaches out, connects, and empowers Latinos and the FM community to bring social change. We put the FM community, it wasn't our focus.
It has been.
We put the and in there because the community we are serving in the Rocky Park area is not predominantly white. And those people who are predominantly white are low income. Those are the people that are disadvantaged, correct? Those are the people that, with the partnerships, people are able to, and they're all still Latinos in the neighborhood. No, they're not maybe as many as there used to be, but that program serves them as well. And our intention was not to push anyone out. Our intention was to reach out through media and partnerships and events, connect, engage, organize, facilitate, and embrace culture, and empowering through training, education, awareness. Out on this board that we decided, and our goal was not just to have an after-school program. Not that we were excluding that, but the idea was to start building leaders, to start to find how to work with our own stories, getting our own stories out there, with confronting racism, these issues that we have in schools. My children deal with it as well. I didn't come on this board to whitewash anything. That I think it's been a huge misunderstanding about why the mission and vision has been, why it's been this way, was to have more structural change instead of just surface change. And we were working on that, and I'm sorry to say that our executive director left. At letting people know, obviously not. I mean, we were struggling to do this in the right way. Centro has had a really bad reputation in the past. And if we throw up a white flag once more to our funders, because those are the people who are listening in the community, I have enough understanding of how the board works, or how a nonprofit works, that you just don't, throw it down again like, oh, Centro can't do it again, okay? We're trying to preserve a reputation, connect with people. Was it successful? No, but when this protest came, I am serious. This was like a bright shining light. And we were this was like some excitement, but we took a positive spin on it. It's like, great, now we can identify people who are going to come on this board, who have this passion and this idea and follow the vision. But another part of it was building community leaders. And part of that leaders is getting people in here who have the knowledge, the desire to have these after school programs for our kids, these cultural, you mentioned it, at the end of the meeting we were talking the other day, having a movie night.
That was one of the proposals I submitted that was ignored.
I did not receive it, Cindy, and
I
I'm
know.
telling you now
Ernesto-
why. And
Ernesto-
you're here now, and you
But
want
Ernesto
people on the
wanted
board.
to talk about having programming that was centered on Mexican culture, Latino culture in our Centro, and he was turned down. And, part of the...
Okay, you have to understand that when you're talking about him turning things down, I don't think you all understand the full functioning of what was going on. I'm telling you now. It was not full board operational. There was miscommunications. There was even a time when he did not pay the bills. We were trying to clean up. We were trying to do best as board members to do damage control.
I would really like to believe, I want to believe everything that you're saying was just a mistake. But I'm not saying that, I do believe you. I'm just saying, I want to believe it was a mistake. But when you don't ask for any help, you don't notify anyone of what you're doing.
Cindy, I have talked to the people that I know. I don't know you personally. and I
No,
know
but you can make an announcement. We need volunteers.
What
We
is
need
your
help.
criteria for accepting board members?
The board applications in there.
But what is the criteria that you're looking for in people?
Time commitment, that's the problem. People want to be on the board, they show up once or twice, or they're busy, they have family. We all have things going on, but we need a certain required amount of hours.
So the only criteria
I
that you
didn't say
look
the
for...
only, but
Okay,
that's one
so
of
then
them.
what is your criteria to people here? Why did you turn me down, and why did you turn Yacine Beltran down when for the past 2 years we have tried to become members of this board? So if the only criteria is that, then explain to me why you turned us down, because in addition to
You want
us,
me to say that
there were 2 or
publicly?
3 other people that were also trying to come on the board. So what would be the reason?
Yeah, you can say it publicly. We asked you.
Well, I didn't address you. I addressed you.
Yeah, can you answer the question?
I can reply to you personally in that, but I don't think they should make it public.
What is so personal about my life that you can't share here?
Now you're making it sound like there's something wrong with
Right.
her, like you're criminalizing her in some way.
What?
You're making it
The
seem
fact
like
that
there's
I'm a
like
Latina and
a
you're
cloud?
not, the fact that I'm brown, the fact that I served my country for 6 years and I'm a Marine, the fact that I've been an executive assistant, the fact that I've worked in corporate America for 20 years, what have I done in my life
Because
that doesn't make me?
I'm sorry.
I wasn't addressing you.
We take Centro's best interest in consideration.
And I don't have
But that's not a criteria.
Wait, I don't have Centro in the best interest when I'm a member of this community, when I'm actually Latina? What is it?
Well, if you were bad-mouthing Centro or in any shape perform and it gets around the community.
Oh, so if we,
that's
so if we try to hold you accountable, then we can't be board members.
Wasn't that?
Well, we should all leave,
Wasn't
everybody,
no.
because we're not gonna be accepted as
No,
board
we're talking
members.
about- Did she just hand in her application yesterday? When did this happen?
Over 2 years ago.
2 years.
And what was going on at that time?
Who knows? You're the board
I don't
member.
know what's going on.
You're the
here.
board chair.
I can speak to what was going on at that
Are
time.
you on the board?
No, but I was there when she was telling Professor Arauza about all the horrible things, and you weren't actually here, because I volunteered here. I cleaned up after the mess you guys left out there on Cinco de Mayo, and I cleaned the day before, too, because that's what we do as my organization at college. We come at least, when the weather gets nice out, we come, and we try to come at least once a month and clean up a little around here.
Okay, what was I doing? No, and him I don't know, and I was going off of his performance while he was here. And when I've tried
And who are you to judge Cisco's performance? You weren't
A community
always
member
here.
from the
But you
Latino
were always
community.
here looking at what's being done under, what he was paying the bills or what he was doing. And he was an intern.
You guys
didn't
have
even.
said on the board
you
that he
didn't-
wasn't doing his job and then he left.
That's
Yeah. Ernesto or
Ernesto.
Cisco?
I said Cisco, the intern. And he was filling more than enough jobs because I was there when they voted them on.
What is
Because
it that he did? What programming did he provide for the
He
Latino
was the
community?
intern, that wasn't his responsibility.
Okay, well, what did he do? What kind of services did he
So you're saying that
provide?
applications don't get taken off of, based on personal opinion, is
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
That's what you're saying.
You
Because
That's
lied
what she
based
said
on
because
today.
I've been working
Have
with
you
Arauza.
applied?
So
I've been
I'm
working
stopping
with
here.
Professor.
So you're saying that you don't accept applications not based off of performance or qualification, but based off of personal opinion?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem very professional.
No.
As a business owner, that does not seem very professional. I run a very, very
Are you gonna
successful
employ, are you
business.
gonna employ somebody who trashes your place outside of work?
That is a personal opinion, hold on, based off of something that has not been run successfully. If
Yeah.
I wanted a business to be run successfully,
Right?
I would have a personal opinion based on that business. Now, when my business is not succeeding, now, my business has succeeded over its performance at least 100% each year. If somebody was not having my business and I had employed them, I would have an opinion of their performance every year. I would evaluate that person's position every year, and I would have a personal opinion based on that person's performance. Yes or no?
You know what?
Okay, there's more than just that, but.
Okay, but
you're
based
a
on that person's
for-profit.
opinion,
You're a for-profit, correct?
absolutely.
We're a nonprofit. If you go around and you're Latina and you're
I
going
have,
around
look,
trashing.
I
They're
run,
not
I
trashing
didn't
the
trash.
center.
I didn't
I
trash
know
this
somebody who runs a
organization.
very,
I've
very
been working-
successful nonprofit in the Twin Cities. Him and I are good friends. Twin Cities Rise, his name is our firm, okay? Does a great job. Absolutely fabulous. I could call him up and ask him about all of this mess. He does a fabulous job. He could get this place in shape in no time.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you what, he would be like, oh my God. And he has all kinds of opinions all the time.
He wouldn't be
based on
allowed to
people's
help here.
performance. He helps people lower economic.
Board because I said, you didn't put me
It's
on the
absolutely
board because
incredible.
I said
It's
something
crazy.
about your friend that you didn't like.
My friend.
Okay, about Cisco, whoever.
He's my
Okay,
friend.
but I didn't go around in this community talking bad about this community center.
about time
I
commitment?
went to
about time
Abner and Yolanda Arauza to help me
What
to
about
get
your
onto
time
the
commitment?
board. What?
What about your time commitment? That was one of the first criteria we consider.
What's the problem? I'm a single parent and a full-time student. You've been doing it for 2.5, 3 years. What makes you think that I can't do it?
Yeah.
Nothing, I don't think that you can do it, but.
You're making a personal judgment that you
Yeah.
don't think that I can do it?
You know what is very,
out of
very clear?
experience-
There's
Oh,
nobody
wait,
in this
wait. Out of
room.
experience. Tell me your experience.
Well, when you
She had
came
no
to
board
an
experience.
organization and you came in and basically told people what to do, and then when we said, well, you do this as a group, you said, well, I'm busy, I have this, and this to do, and you pointed to other members of the group and told them they should do that. That was the
Here at
impression-
Centro, or you
No.
mean at Ola?
Correct. When you first came to Ola.
So now you're
Okay,
basing
because
it off
Ola
of school
is
stuff?
the school club. Centro is for the community.
Yeah.
So what I
Right.
say about Centro and my commitment to Ola is different to my commitment to Centro.
Fine, okay, so then you understand that we had those considerations. There were two things that were like, well,
I don't buy this for a second. You know what I think? And
That's bullshit,
I
because
wanna-
if you have no members on your, and you're desperate looking for board members.
They're not
And you
desperate.
have myself and other other Latinas at MSUM that are willing to put time into this place, you should be grateful that you have people that want to be on the board. You didn't pick people on the board because you don't like us as people.
Yeah.
That's
I
why.
never said I don't like you as a person.
You have been very hostile to the people that have tried to help this organization. You've done it today on film. I'm not going to say that I'm the only one that thinks it's hostile. Everyone else here told you that too, but that's fine.
Well, yeah, I came off that way.
We're
for so
talking
long,
about
and-
person, yeah, I know, it's been coming out. But here's the thing. Ultimately, I'm not going to waste my time if you base your criteria on who you put on the board on petty things like that. I'm here to work. I'm here to volunteer my time, and I am actually going to be efficient. I'm not going to be incompetent like you, okay? So if you're not going to accept our applications, we can just go. We don't need to have our time wasted. And then you can just deal with the AG's office.
I'm not the only one deciding. There is a board.
You need to decide now
The
because we
application.
are going to leave. At least I am. I don't want to have my time wasted anymore.
I mean, just based off of what you said.
This is crap.
You can obviously, I mean, and based off of what you said to her, you're showing that you're not basing it off of qualification, you're basing it off of personal opinion.
Yeah.
You
But
didn't
there
even,
are other things to consider.
you didn't even give her the opportunity and then let her go. You're basing it off of a personal opinion for application.
Not only that, they didn't even talk to her and tell her this is why we're not accepting you. They wouldn't call her
So going
back.
off of the paper that you've been reading this whole time,
Over and
she
over.
went against that because she was
And it's okay
prejudiced
to
me
go
on
against-
personal reasons. So she herself, as a board member, can't even keep to that.
She can violate the bylaws when it's convenient to
She
destroy
can
the
violate-
organization, but not to fix it.
Personal opinion, not
Yeah,
race.
Been talking to
That's
you.
what she told us.
Not.
For
That's what
Ola.
For
she
Ola.
said for
Not
one
for
thing,
Centro.
not for the other.
Yeah, and if you ask her to babysit your kids, she might tell you no too. But that doesn't have to do nothing for Centro. That's a separate issue. You can't seem to keep those two things separate. And you keep bleeding into what's happening at the university. This is Centro. That is MSUM. They're two different entities. You can't have all of the people on the board be students. You can't have all of the people that are working here or doing stuff for the organization be non-Latinos. This is our Centro. It's ours. It belongs to the community of Latinos. And you haven't shown us that you care to work with any of us. So what are we doing here, Christine? Are you going to accept board applications today? You have 3 people in the room.
The rate of
Are you going to accept board applications today? Will you vote?
But on what criteria? On what criteria? Because what's the
Yeah.
point?
Let him speak real quick.
Or what I had in mind, I'm sorry if that wasn't clear, what I had in mind is to put a vision forward.
We already did that 3 years ago. Octavio and I worked for a long time. We did a report. We met with
They
community
have-
members.
they
We
have-
did
they have-
outreach.
Highly
They have-
extensive, the whole community. of
Pero él ya lo
Hispanic
sabe,
leaders.
entonces ¿por qué nos estás haciendo mensos? Tú ya lo sabes. There's a report, we did it, we've spoken. We not only did that, we complained, we've come and talked.
Okay, when you invited me to your house, we had a good talk.
Mhm.
But that's what I'm saying, like, my idea is to come up with what is gonna happen forward. Right now, there's a lot of back and forth, this said that, this happened here, but what is happening forward? That's what I want to
We
do.
said what we wanted to do at that meeting. And you agreed, You were the one that said that you wanted to do that.
See, I've been through this before. I've been through the reconstitution of this board.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just me, Christina, if you recall. I was the only standing board member for about 3 minutes while we voted in an entire set.
Of
You
new
were
board
being one
members.
of them, of an entire group of about 7 board leaders. It all happened in one day.
And you
That's
could do
just
that
as easily as
today.
it could happen today. You
If
could
you
accept the applications,
stop
of
dragging
6 or
your feet.
7 new board members. There'd be a democratic process where
Mm-hmm.
they would decide the direction of this organization. I had a vision back then that this would be able to like sustain itself and grow and become something that was for the community. I felt it was
Right.
made up of a good core group of individuals that would carry it forward. And there was everything was in place. We had an executive director, everything was there. I understand your situation, I understand the dilemma that you had not having an executive director, limited time, and then the reduction of your group to be able to delegate out different responsibilities.
How that process went, in 5 days, we can have a board meeting, we take all the applications, people will be voted on. That's how it happened. I had to fill out an application, and, people had board, whatever.
You want
and
board
then-
members.
Yes, we
What I'm
want them.
gathering from you, you want board members.
Definitely, and my
Can you
term
make
is
a
we need a chair,
commitment to like accept board members on, other than, see, like, accepting applications, I've
No,
been
no,
through
I
that.
want
Yeah.
to accept board members, but we need your, I want you to fill out application.
Right, right,
We'll
right.
have a meeting and like. as
And
long
why
as
do we
they're
have to
within
have
5 days.
applications? Because I have to say,
It's just the process.
it's a process,
Yes.
but there's some people that are very,
It wasn't so personal as it was, but you have to take the best interest of Centro and.
you don't think you've had the best interest
Well,
in
when we're hitting
Centro.
rock bottom, when we hit
Yeah,
rock
I don't
bottom,
wanna-
let's just start looking at finding a
Right.
flotation device.
Right,
If I'm understanding this
That's fine.
properly, right now, we're at rock bottom, we're 90 days away from dissolution of this organization, and we need to find interested parties.
and we're here.
I remember looking for people, I remember Papo suggesting you to me, I remember looking for other people like Abner
Cedar Creek does
Rausa,
ask me.
and
Yeah,
some
I
of the
remember.
leader groups from OLA and the community leaders that were inside of MSUM. And the people were pretty interested if it was going to be a fresh start.
Right.
And I think that if you're willing, like you're telling me, I'm understanding that you're willing to like be a liaison, you don't wanna just like throw down the hatchet and say, I'm stepping back, thanks for coming in.
Correct.
You wanna be able to make
It's
sure it
one requirement
works.
to find a replacement. And so that's what we wanna do. We wanna have, as board members, when you leave, you're not just supposed to like, get up off your chair and leave, which happened. I mean, it left us.
I hear ya.
If-
It'll happen again.
I did not
people-
step down until I saw that there was a
Right.
strong leadership,
Okay, and that's what I
executive
want
director, and
exactly
all
to
of those
happen.
things.
I
Right.
just suspect that, for example, me, the one that called the protest, the call for accountability will not be accepted. I suspect that
I won't be
you
accepted.
will not be accepted. I suspect that a lot of the
I
people,
think that if the communication gets going strong enough here, that the best interest of this place could get put in place, and that could happen. I mean, I think that we need to open a communication channel though, and I think that once we get that going, something can get worked out here.
but we don't have a lot of time.
Well,
And the
can I-
second, the
can I just-
second problem is that if we keep kicking the can down the road, okay, so what was said that we were gonna do today did not happen today, and it was suggested by you. That is kind of screwed up.
Do we
because-
have applications? Do we
Who
have
saw it?
applications?
No,
Well, then
we-
we-
they're right here.
I just wanna know, if we
Apply,
apply,
will we,
are
do
we
we
gonna
have,
get
are we gonna
accepted?
be just
Because
kicked out of the?
by your
vote?
criteria,
They can't say that.
They're a board.
Well, they,
They're-
but they've been saying that their
They can't
criteria
say
is
they're going to
skewed.
accept until they get into a board meeting. I mean, you know this, I mean, you
Right, right,
can't, you.
That's-
I knew that the board
But we
that
know that
I
they
was
have a
working with
bias.
was going
Okay.
to accept the
We
application.
know that she has a
All we're
bias.
talking about, who wants board application forms?
Cool.
Okay.
And everybody that I invited here today thought that we were gonna be doing this today, and I
I-
don't see a reason why we can't do it
We'll give you
today.
a few.
I think if the Attorney General is involved right now, the best thing, my best advice to the board is follow your bylaws.
I asked the
I
AG
know.
about that, and they said that the board could agree that they are going to hold a meeting right now, and if you want board applicants, why not make the decision? You have people in the room. Oh, let's just wait. For what? What are we waiting for?
This was a listening session, and I came to hear what was here because I have a great deal of respect for this organization and what you've done over the years. I have wept with you whenever things have not gone well. I enjoy and love and support when things go very well. And I have to tell you that I have been particularly proud of you as you grew to expand your mission. I hear your interest in having a place for your kids. I hear that. But I also have watched over the years as you have lived in a neighborhood that has changed. And you've recognized that. You've seen it. You have not pretended otherwise. And I felt it was very responsible of you, responsive and responsible, to say our immediate community has changed. And
Anything? Are you weeping now?
am I what?
Crying now?
Am I crying now?
She said, now that you've heard everything that's been going on here, are you weeping now?
No, actually, I'm not. I love the fact that somebody is interested and willing to come and say what you want. That's not sad. That's great. That's democracy.
it's sad that we have to be here to be fighting for something that already belongs to us, that someone has taken away from us.
Yeah, it's exactly the way it is in our country. Our rights will disappear if we don't
tirelessly for social justice for a generation, a term in the state legislature, for 2 terms in the city council. I've worked harder for Romkey Park than anybody that I know of. I'm here, I walk this neighborhood, I do what I can. I'm gonna continue fighting. And whether you like me or you don't like me, I don't really care. Octavio knows this. I'm willing to take on the power structure to get done what needs to be done. I love the fight, I love the underdog. I'm gonna be there to help support you. We got 90 days.
You wanna know where my kids go? My kids go to my place of business after school. That's where they go. Because in order for them to do programming, I have to put them in a program like the Boys and Girls Club after school, or the one they offer at Robert Ass, which is about $300 for after school programming.
And this is for both of you, Diana Mark. Now, los quiero hacer entender, señoras.
So,
You guys have a white perspective, so what you see is like, oh, they're getting funding, great, we appreciate that.
so
We're
I'm
getting
sorry, but I'm
programs,
not
but
paying
we're not getting our
$300 for
kids.
a couple hours of after school
served.
programming. So my kids get to go sit at the shop where they get to actually get a perspective of color. They get to watch my husband work. They sweep up where they get a work ethic, which I instill in my children. But they shouldn't have to if they should have somewhere else to go where they get to engage in, other, but no. Their programming would be things like this, or Boys and Girls Club, after school at Robert Ass, for things like that. No, so my kids get to go to work after school.
Do you have metrics on how many kids of Mexican descent, Latino descent attend YouthWorks? Do you have any information about that? Do you, Evangelina, do you remember how many of the Mexican community was actually coming to YouthWorks?
To be honest with you, it was only like 2, sometimes 1.
Yeah.
Most of them were Kurdish, Muslims. That's what they were.
And I can answer to that. I would say right now, sadly, maybe not all of the youth that come or children that come into the group, we don't take down their race. I just go by what they would tell me if they talk about it. But a lot of them can't even identify what race they are. So I don't have a perfect idea.
But you can see us right now. You can see you're white and I'm a Mexican, right?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, so you can tell there's some brown kids and
Yes,
some
I will
white
say
kids.
that. I see that, but I've been part of this group for 4 years, and I'll tell you that I'm very passionate about working with these youth. I've been here, I've stuck with them. It's not been easy. We have really struggled with finding funding. We've been working really hard on getting money to come into this building and provide a safe place for kids that are usually standing on the street.
Not our kids, though. Not our kids. And this place was, look, it's Centro Cultural.
I'm not going to say what exact kids it is, but there's multiracial.
We want to help all kids, but we want to help all kids, and Centro has never excluded other people. There's been community events, I've seen you here at lots of different community events. You've never been told, hey, get out of here, we don't serve you. No, but we do need to serve what the community is that it's for. That's what's not happening. That's what we're asking.
Pushing YouthWorks out the door because we
No.
serve the community, and that's not part of.
We can't, if our children, listen, if our parents, we are picky parents, ask any Mexican in here. Even Christine, you can ask her. We're picky parents. We're not going to let our kids just go someplace where we don't know who the parents are, where we don't know what the programming is. ¿A poco no? We don't let our kids, ¿y vas a jugar con quién? ¿Y quién va a ser su mamá? I need to have her number. I want to take you over to her house.
I enjoy parents like you because then when something happens, I can call you.
Right.
There's not all the parents that live within this community aren't parents like you that care.
I think if there's such a great need for a community center to serve all these other people that want to get service here, all of this passion that you guys have should be used to find funding and work for 20 years to create a community organization for your group of people that you want to help, like Centro Cultural founders did. That's what you should do. You should invest all that time and effort and all of the work of your community for 20 years to help all those people that you are so passionate about. But please do not take our center and hijack it for the purposes of someone other than the thing it was founded for, because it's our Centro.
Centro Cultural, what you do for Centro Cultural for the children here, Centro Cultural can do for itself. Centro Cultural, the Latino community, does not need your white homage to come in here and take care of our own kids. Your intentions might be good, but we can do it. Centro Cultural, the Latino in this community, we can do it for ourselves. We can find the people to come here so that our kids, when they look up to the people that are helping raise it, because in our culture, the community raised the child. We want our kids to look and say, yeah, these are my people, and your intentions are great, but my children can't represent with you. They can't understand with you because you don't understand our culture. Just like she doesn't understand the way we talk
or think.
It's just like when I was here, when I was working here throughout the years, I was the administrative assistant, and I ran an after-school program and a lunch. I never had problems with their kids.
Right.
Never.
Porque sabías quién era, all their parents, you knew who they were.
Their parents were here.
That was a
Even
different
if
program.
they weren't here, you know, I mean, we didn't have any problems.
I think she wanted to say something.
I came here when Papa was helping me and stuff. I wish this place was more with more Hispanics.
Yes.
I brought my son. Papa said to bring my son to soccer, and I did. Me and my husband said never again. We went one day and we never brought him back. Why? Because all the kids were Bosnian. They were swearing, saying lots of bad words, and being mean. And my husband got angry and like stopped swearing. Like he told him to stop, and the guy that was volunteering said thank you. And I'm like, if this place,
We
if I
will
could
not
feel
let our
more
kids
safe
around
from
that.
my child being here, I would like that place.
We
I
will
wish
not
it
let
could
her.
be this place.
And I told Christine so many times about those kids, you know, it's not that I'm racist, but they were very cruel, very disrespectful. Did I mention?
That's
The only kid that was really good was your son, and I hate to say, you know, not to point out just your son is the best, but he was, you know, he's a real good kid, because all the kids were so bad, and I used to tell you about it, but Papa never did anything. He said I was racist. They hit my computer, they yell, they curse.
You know, and that's the way it is though when you mix cultures like that. Because in my business, like I said, that's how we are. And we serve a lot of the Bosnian, the Kurdish, the, you know, Gypsy community. And, you know, we deal with that because we are a business, like you say, we are a for-profit business. So we don't have the option to say, sorry, we're not gonna cut your hair. Sorry, we're not gonna do this. But a lot of the time, that is what we deal with. The Kurdish children, the Bosnian children, that's the way they are. You sit down in the chair and it's like, F you and screw you and this. And that's the way it is. But now, is that the way that you want your children to come in? Because I know for me, I have a 16-year-old daughter. She's fixing to be 17. She's doing PSEO. She has a driver's license. She has a job. You know, like you said, we're very picky with our children. I'm sorry, my kid is dishes done by 9 o'clock every day. You do not go out by 10 o'clock. You are not allowed to do that. My daughter is she's on dance team. She does 3.56 right now at the end of the year. Now, do I want you dating a certain type of child? Do I want you to? No, that's not how I want. So when we say, do we want to send her? Now, do I want her in a certain area with a certain type? We raise our children a certain way. We have certain standards. My kids do not watch TV Monday through Friday. My boys are allowed TV at 3 o'clock on Friday till 8 o'clock on. People tell me, how the hell do you do that? You know why? Because I have standards. I have standards for my kids that were ingrained in me from my time I was small, and they stick with me until now. Why? Because that's the way that my abuelita raised me, and that's the way I'm gonna be, because that's the way it's worked. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
But culturally, we're different. What I'm trying to say to you is when we talk over each other, and we'll do that, Mexicans, Latinos will do that. We'll talk at each other, we'll talk at the same time, and we hear, and we are loud. You know why? Because we're passionate. It's different from how you are. So when you say, hey, shh, 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 don't talk.
That's offensive.
That's offensive to all of us. Yeah. And so we need to tell you that if we're going to have a listening session, then you got to be respectful because we're in our Centro right now.
Okay,
This is like
so
our.
I should be loud too, so that you can listen.
If you're comfortable, yeah. That's what we want. That's how we are. And we don't think.
One of the things I'm hearing though, and you tell me if this is right. I'm hearing you say you want your kids in the after-school program.
We want to have our own
Wait a minute, in this
program.
building.
Yeah, you lost it.
And you're willing to say nobody else from another culture. That's what I'm hearing you say.
No, you didn't listen.
Yes, you're
You didn't hear. Who heard me say that? Raise your hand. Okay, so you
I
have.
said that.
She said that, but I didn't
said
say that. So
Then
you
we-
heard me
then we-
say something she
Then we can't
said?
support then we can't, through state money, support youth works. If it's not open to every child who walks the door, then we can't support the program.
I know, I
Then you-
understand.
Youth Works can go
How about
and find
different
another
timing?
location to do what Youth
So-
Work wants to
but-
do,
but
and let Centro
but,
do
I mean, this
an
is what-
after-school program.
Where we
By
come in,
Centro.
where I come in, city money supports youth works
We're saying.
through the police department.
Okay.
Without the city, without a guarantee that all comers will be served, then it's over. And if you want to do it, if you want to do a Latino after school project,
I can't stand at the door and say, what race are you? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't give you food today because you're not the right race. I can't.
We're
do
not
that.
saying that.
What we're saying is that
You never
we.
have funding from anybody if you're saying that you're gonna
No, that's
stand at
not
the
what we're
door
saying.
and
We,
not
our
allow
main
them in.
focus is for the Latino community.
Right.
Once we are achieving the main focus, yeah, we'll take other children, that's
Sure.
fine. But our goal is first our children, then all the other
then
children.
youth works can't do
That's
it.
fine, so then Youth Works can go someplace else.
And you know what I think? I think I believe this because I started out as a community organizer in Muscatine at Muscatine Center for Strategic Action, and one of the first things we did was a youth center, and we had gang kids, so we had Latin Kings, and then we had the Black Gangster Disciples, and we had a mix from all over the community, and it wasn't possible for us to do any more than we want to do it here, what we're talking about. We had very steadfast rules when we did after-school programming that respected everyone. And if Evangelina's saying that when she brought it to the attention of Papo and to the attention of the board members that kids were being rude, abusive, damaging property, and there was no standards, there was no rule, making sure that these things happen. And you have numerous incidents. Heck, when we were working in Muscatine, the police themselves would come down and say to us, if you guys can't control your drop-in center, we'll shut it down. You can't keep having problems where people leave here and they're jumping each other and things like this are happening, because if this becomes a source of a problem in the community, we will shut you down. So we needed to get a handle on that quick, and we had very steadfast rules. This program, it could work, but not in its present form, because there's a lot of parents, and some of them are here today to tell you, they don't feel comfortable. And if the Latino families, there's like 4 of the people that are here today would not feel comfortable having their kids in the program in its present form because it's not safe for them. The administrative assistant that worked here for years and was the face of the organization was fired for complaining about it.
Can I ask though when individuals have come, because I've recently taken over the group, and so I don't know, and I've made many changes, and so I would like to know when your kids have been present or when they have become part of the group, because I've taken over the group in the last 2 years and have tried implementing new rules and tried implementing different ways for individuals to get along, and besides what race they are, because that's what we see in the community. Is whatever race identifies you, if you can be friends or not, and we're trying to get individuals that it doesn't depend on race. You can be friends no matter what. You have to be friends here. That's the rule.
Right, but here's the thing. When you look at how, like Christy was talking about, this is our intention, and you're talking about intentions. I hear a lot of words about intentions. I don't measure intentions because I cannot see people's hearts. I measure outcomes because those are measurable. And when you look at the outcome of what you've done in the past 2 years, you haven't increased the number of people that you serve from this community, from the Mexican or Latino community. And that shows me something. When I asked Christine, she said, well, we've had these events, we've had these things. I said, how come the people aren't coming? Because the Latino people don't want to come. We invited them and they didn't come. And I said, no, that's not how it works. And everybody in this room that's shaking their head will tell you that's not how it works. When people tell us that, we know, oh, you're fake. You invited us, but you don't really want us there, because we know when we're wanted. And when we're asked to do something, I told her that day, I said, you got a whole bunch of people outside right now. How can I get them here, but you can't? Because I'm not fake. Because people can read I'm not fake, and when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If you're not fulfilling what Mexican parents want, if you haven't talked to the people that this center was founded for and made sure that you're fulfilling what they want for their kids, the cultural programming that they need for their kids, then that's the problem. That's
I heard
the
her
that's
just
the
ask
step.
you that though. I heard her say, I want to know when your children have come, what we could have done differently, why they didn't feel accepted. What
My
happened."
children haven't come here in the past 2
No,
years. We're talking
no.
about her.
No, I
Her kids have been here for the past 3 years consistently.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I very much heard her say she would welcome that. Please tell her what we can do differently. I think that's part.
We want.
Here's what I wanted to, I'm meeting, but I just want to say this one thing. I wish this place would be more for Hispanics and more for Hispanic kids, yes. And if I want to be able to trust, and I'd be willing to volunteer, and as long as I'm connected with the people.
Did you get a board application?
No.
You should get one. Can you give me another one? Give her that one. Give us another one.
Once, it's like if, you know, you guys are very passionate, and you guys care about this place. And I would feel better coming here and talking and volunteering and helping if there was someone that really cared.
Well, and we want to know if the board is going to allow that to happen, because like the people that are with me here today, we don't feel that unless that change occurs that we're going to sign on. So we will be making it public what the consensus is from this meeting online, so that you can go and see the consensus of the community is this. This is how we felt the meeting went. Did we get anywhere? Did we not? What's going to happen next, so that you'll know.
That's what, yeah, and that's what I want. I mean, I want my kids to have.
Hey, Justin.
May I just like interrupt a little bit? I'm getting a little bit of kind of where this is going, and I feel there's like a conflict of the mission, if this is mostly for the Latin community or is for the neighborhood, for like the community of the neighborhood. And I feel there's like a conflict here, and the after-school program seems to be the hot topic. How many nights a week does youth work?
3 nights a week.
3 nights a week.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, from 3 to 5:30.
Like,
I mean, that doesn't seem like a huge, amount of time either.
No, I don't think that it is. I just think it has to be something that Latino kids can come to and feel comfortable at.
Yeah.
And if they don't, in the present form, obviously they don't, because they're not coming.
Could we create like another program for
Oh, yeah.
Hispanic kids?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Without like
Uprooting them, that's what I'm saying. I don't think YouthWorks has to go. I don't think that solution, even though everybody over there heard me say that was my solution, it wasn't. My solution, I think, is that we need to make across the board rules of respect for how people are treated and what parents expect, because Mexican parents, Latino parents have very high expectations of who's watching their kids. Part of what I think YouthWorks needs to do is they have to have a person on staff or a liaison or a volunteer that is Latino working with you in tandem during that.
YouthWorks is a separate 501c3, and Centro allows them to use the building. You can't tell YouthWorks what to do. I mean, they can receive what you're saying, but
It's still their program.
it's their program.
Right, and they can take it anywhere else they want to.
Exactly.
What we're saying, if you're going to work in our community.
Let me throw 2 wet blankets on this, okay? We have tried over and over again to try and do youth activities throughout the city. Transportation and transportation costs is the #1 thing that comes and stands in the way. We know this. Anybody who's worked in nonprofits, we know this. Trying to get kids from the north side down here. That's going to be your #1 issue. #2 issue, and I don't know if Christine's ready to talk about this or not. The fire marshal's going to come in here. We've got about $5,000 in improvements that need to be done in this building, or it won't be doing program.
What are the main issues with that?
Every 3 years or so, you get a fire inspection from the chief, and they come in, and we did all the electrical work already, like they give us a check sheet, and we took care of that. The big one, the big bill, is close to $6,000 for having a fire system, like sprinklers and things, to have people in the building to have capacity. So like one of the things we wanted to do right away actually we'd already started working towards this, and we haven't stopped working towards this, but we need some fundraising to happen to keep the building open.
So let me speak to that real quick. And I'm going to meet with Rich. I can't, as a city council member, influence in any way what the fire marshal can or cannot do. But we can be as clear as possible what can and cannot happen in this building. Fundraising is going to be their #1 concern. $6,000, get a second bid. Nardini did 1 bid. Next comes the next bid. The city at this point can't step in. I'll try. I mean, Heidi and I have some discretionary funding if it's for the benefit of the neighborhood, not very much. We'll try to do what we can. We can help with fundraising. We need to get, if we're gonna do anything for the Latino community, for the Mexican community, for any other community,
When does this have to be done by?
ASAP.
Okay.
Is there a deadline?
They give you deadlines.
Rich will give you the deadline.
Okay, so you don't have the deadline yet.
So that,
And the inspection
everything-
isn't complete, right? Is that what you said, or did I misunderstand that? There's more inspecting?
No, they came in, they did their inspection, and they were you here when they did they come for a re-inspection when you were here? No, that was Regina, never mind. That was the other guy. No, I'm getting bids for we've let them know that we've scheduled things, because they give you like 10, 30, 60 days out, or 90 days, whatever. So we've been in communication with them, and they know that the firing system thing is a little bit more complicated than just having an electrician come in and do things. So we've been in communication with him about,
a sprinkler system, I mean, just to let you know, you've got a smoke detector system. If you've got to do a sprinkler system, you're talking, you're going to get a second bid on this, but we'll see what we can do in kind, whatever. And I'm just saying this, I'll take whatever city resources or people that I know in the community who can get in here and do it. But there will be no programming, no rental of facilities, nothing. As soon as Rich puts that closed on order of the fire marshal. And this is something Octavia knows.
Can I get another board application from you?
Yes. I mean, this is something, if you want to come together and work on something, it's to raise the money that there's to
I think
to be
that there's
done.
gonna be plenty of people that are willing to raise the money, but we're not going to raise money for an organization that's not going to allow us to have any say in the running of the board, in what happens at Centro, and that's gonna exclude us completely from the programming as they have for the past 3 years. If we know that there is a process, and I still insist that we should take we're talking about how necessary we need to do these things now. Why can't we vote on these now?
These things are so pertinent to the success of this community center and to this running of, because it seems to me, it is a not-for-profit, but it's like a business. Like
Yeah.
I said, I run a successful, it is a business. I run
It
a
is.
successful business, and for instance, I have a huge customer appreciation thing coming up for our business soon. We have people come out in droves for these things. We give away free things, we do this huge thing. This would be a perfect thing for us to.
And also, are you free a lot of times that you could come down here and fill out an application and do this?
I go to school in the cities, I go to school in the cities, but I'm up there Monday and Tuesday, and then I come back on Wednesday mornings. So then the rest of the time I'm here, at the shop. But self-employed lets you do whatever you want. I'm the boss, I go and come when I please. So if I want to leave all day, I can. It's no big thing.
Well, you have us here now. I think that we should take the time to go ahead and.
Your rules say 5 days notice.
But it also says
it
it has a contingency that we can make a decision.
This is for the board.
Why do you guys resist it? Why is there such a resistance to taking action?
Follow your rules.
We want.
It's in there.
Didn't you
Contingency
just
rule
read
there.
it? Yeah, didn't you just hear him say that? Why are you so resistant at letting us decide that? If there's a contingency.
If you have a rule that says with 5 days notice, such and such.
Right, but they've been breaking the rules all this time.
And then it says in lieu of. which
In lieu
means
of what?
In lieu of that 5 days, they
Yep.
can do it whenever they want to,
If
as
they're,
long
if
as
they're
they
not
all
willing,
sign an
if they're
agreement.
not willing to do it, they're not willing to do it.
And
And you
they're
can-
the
Well, you guys keep interrupting us
Are they
even being able to ask them or get them to say.
The question is,
I'm trying to reach a consensus here. How about this? And I'm willing to tell you right now, I would accept your application if this is the vision. Like I would hate to see youth works go. What if we create our own after-school program in the other nights of the week? If that is a compromise.
Yeah, what does that have to do with accepting board
What
applications?
does that have to do with the application?
If that is the compromise,
Because
if that is
his
the vision.
concern is that this program would be lost. And
So before we can even be accepted as board members, we have to like decide that we're gonna vote for something or vote a certain way. I feel like that's we're being bribed.
But I as a parent, I understand his concern.
I understand it too. I completely understand it. But here's the thing: how can we decide what's going on in terms of the board being a full board and being able to move forward?
Because then once you become part of the board, you have the power.
That is, of course. Then of course, though, we would be on the board. We would have a board, and we would know that we're going to move forward.
But then you would have the power to dismantle this situation. is their concern.
And the future
I'm
of
being-
Youth Works could be dismantled by any future board, depending on who's on it. It doesn't mean,
Exactly,
right.
that's his concern.
Right, but that we shouldn't be held hostage to another outside organization, and that should not be the topic of discussion of today. We're here for that vision. Why are we talking about white people-centered programs when we came here to talk about that?
Because you're never gonna get anywhere unless you talk about something.
Oh.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, because we're gonna.
I
get
know, but we don't
nowhere.
need a devil's advocate. We need somebody
We're
to
gonna
do
get nowhere.
that.
We're gonna
But-
keep,
but
we're gonna
Cindy,
keep
but Cindy-
running in circles.
And Cindy, the one thing I said is, in order to be a board member, according to the bylaws, you have to agree with the mission and goals.
See, that's where
The
you're gonna
new
get.
mission and goals.
The new mission.
You have to.
Right, I understand
And
that,
you can't-
but,
and so
but
you can't say,
It's a
I
new
want to be
mission
on the
and
board,
goals,
but I'm not
but
going to
it's
support the
registered to
mission. But that's it.
That's where
But it
we're
hasn't
going.
been registered to the AG.
But I'm not, I mean, this is going to be a discussion with
So
the AG.
it's still the same old mission.
And plus, regardless of that stuff is in the Bremer grant, and it says it's supposed to happen. I don't think that we should be held over the fire
But the
and
board-
told
the board-
that unless
The board
we-
adopted a new mission.
Right, but they did not follow the grant that includes
The
Youth
board-
Works.
and the board would have to go back and reverse the mission.
The mission doesn't say anything about Youth Works. It doesn't say, this board has expanded to do Youth Works at
What I'm
Centro.
saying though is you can't have board members who don't support the current mission.
I know, but
And so you've got to find a way to support the current mission in order for the board to accept
I
you
would
as a
say
member.
part of the mission is the Latin community. And right now it seems that it has lost the push. So that's why I want you guys on the board to correct that. But I don't want to push the other community as well. That is what I'm like looking at.
I don't either.
compromise.
I don't either, and I've said that from the beginning.
And that is good.
I believe that Youth Works could work here if they changed the way that they do things so that Latino parents would feel comfortable
And
letting
I'd
their
say,
kids
like,
come.
If right now it's not comfortable, how about if we have it separately right now?
I think they should be
Concepts.
integrated. I think that the kids should be able to come any day of the week and feel comfortable here. And I think that the kids that come to youth work programs should be able to come to cultural programming centered on Latino culture too. What I'm saying is, I object to it being a contingency of us accepting board applications. If you make it one, I will be one of the people that will say, okay, well, I don't agree with that. I think that that is the wrong way to ask for those things.
I don't want to impose what I'm thinking, what I'm going, and this is by good faith because I don't know much about board governance. I just want to be in an agreement of like what is going to happen with this place.
The agreement is we're going to work to make all of these programs work together. The agreement is
That
we
is what I
want
want.
Youth Works to be able to continue to help us fund the lights in the building,
Exactly.
but we want to make it something that works for Latino families. We want programming to be available exclusively that is culturally centered, that actually meets the mission of what Latino families want.
Well, folks, we're at 7:55.
Yeah.
So we put away chairs and.
What have we done? What have we decided?
Where do we send these? Because, I mean, not that mine's gonna get accepted, but where do we send it?
You have the contact sheet with the board. It has the address for Centro.
Did everybody get one of
Are
those?
we gonna have an understanding as to when?
Yeah,
the
we need to
Friday
have
is gonna happen?
We do need to have an understanding.
Just personal ones, but not Centros.
Because when people know that that's a legit thing that the board has agreed to, doing the
Oh, you want us
5-day
to
thing,
mail
I
it?
think that's.
You can mail
Well,
them or.
I think, well, when are you guys
Or
gonna
you
do your
could-
meetings? Next
yeah.
Monday or Sunday, or what are you looking at?
I would do as soon as we can. I don't know how.
You need five working days, so anytime after.
And remember the contingency rule there. In lieu of those 5 days, you all sign.
But it
You
has to
can-
be all signatures, all the members and one guy's on Texas.
Yeah, and why do we have a member of the board that's in Texas
The
instead of
majority
in the
of the board is in
community?
Texas.
That's
No,
weird.
no.
Don't you think that's a good question, Diane? Or are you just personally annoyed with my questions?
Anybody else? Board application?
Yeah, I can tell.
It's a setup.
Okay, get that.
It's totally a setup.
He just said all the board members had to sign it, and there's one in Texas.
¿Me van a aceptar o no la rompo ahorita? No, porque si no me van a aceptar, ¿para qué voy a prender mi micrófono? No, yo, ella le van a contestar. Escucha, una vez
chick said that she had to clean up after the
I know, it's like.
Got funding to do those presentations. I got all kinds of funding to get that soccer program going, and it was for the community. I have no